What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video here on the Fantasy Fellowship channel. My name is Kyle. In this video, it's October 4th, Tuesday evening here. We're going to go over the 2022 fantasy points allowed. There is a link in the description to get to this article. Otherwise, just go to thefantasyfellowship.com and just click on 2022 fantasy points allowed. And this is, we have 4 weeks of data, so it's kind of useful at this point here. We've seen a good amount of things that we can start to rely on the trends that we're seeing. The first chart here is going to show the total PPR points allowed by each defense here. So teams at the top, these are the defenses we want to take advantage of. So I added a week 5 column to show you guys who's playing who. So the Detroit Lions right now allowing the most points per game in fantasy football right now, about 25 to the quarterback, 32 to the running back, almost 40 to the wide receivers, and 16 to the tight ends or so. So you want to target these teams. At the top here, the Patriots. You want to start your Patriots against the Lions this week. You want to start your Cincinnati Bengals against the Ravens. You want to start your Raiders against the Chiefs. The Chiefs allowing a ton of fantasy points here. The Dolphins, you're going to get the New York Jets. So the Jets with Zach Wilson actually showed some signs of life last week. We're excited about that. The Tennessee Titans going up against the Washington football team. We're excited about a lot of the offensive weapons on the Commanders. And then the New Orleans Saints, they're going to get the Seattle Seahawks. So there's a ton of weapons that we like in both of these matchups. And then again, so red matchups, you want to avoid those. So Miami allowing the 4th most fantasy points, as a whole, but they're pretty red against running backs. So not a great matchup there. They're kind of funneling towards quarterbacks, receivers, and tight ends. Tennessee a little bit stingier against the run as well. Baltimore pretty good against the tight end. Seattle good against wide receivers, and Atlanta here good against the running back. So Tampa Bay, fun matchup here for their wide receivers, for their tight end, and maybe the quarterback. We'll look down here at the bottom of this. Defenses you want to avoid right now. I mean, the Niners, the Bills, the Broncos, the Cowboys, Chicago Bears, Packers, Giants, Saints, like all these teams are putting up elite numbers here. Tons of red numbers here. So you look at San Francisco, the one of the best ways to read this chart is like, what defense do I want to start this week? And it's all of these defenses that we're looking at here. So the Niners, the Bills, Broncos, Cowboys, Bears, like these are really good plays this week here. It looks like the Broncos are kind of good against the are allowing points against the tight end, but they're pretty solid against everything else. So this is a useful chart that just shows basically the whole defense as a whole. And then as we get into it here, let's look at the fantasy points allowed to the quarterback. This is the scoring format that I use to calculate all of these numbers here. And then I do pull these numbers from Pro Football Focus. If you guys wanted to look up their numbers, that's where I get all my stats from, and I just compile them into my own charts with my own stats here. But anyways, the Miami Dolphins, the worst team against quarterback. They're allowing 25 points per game to the quarterback. Might be a good spot to start Zach Wilson this week here, as well as his receivers. You have the Lions going up against whatever quarterback the Patriots are going to be running out there. It might be Mac Jones, probably not going to be Brian Hoyer, maybe Bailey Zappi. We'll see. But it's a juicy spot for the New England Patriots offense. Ravens going up against Joe Burrow. It's a top 5, top 10 week for Joe Burrow. Patrick Mahomes is going to be getting his points this weekend against the Raiders, and maybe Derek Carr getting his points against the Chiefs. It might be a good game for Carson Wentz, as the Tennessee Titans allowing 21.39 points per game to the quarterback. They've allowed 10 touchdowns. Look at this. We have 3 teams here allowing 10 touchdowns on the season. You want to target these defenses. And then as we get to the bottom here, let's go down to the red. Again, Buffalo, 49ers, Cowboys, Bengals, Broncos. These are tough matchups for their teams. So Kenny Pickett is going to get his first start against the Buffalo Bills. We're probably not going to want to start him. I'm excited about Kenny Pickett and what he can bring to the Steelers offense, but not this week. 49ers are going to get Baker Mayfield, and that's going to be a really good spot to start the 49ers defense. You also have the Dallas Cowboys going up against the Rams, so maybe temper your expectations for Matthew Stafford. Again, look at these numbers here. Like, there's a ton of teams allowing less than 15 points per game to the quarterback. 2 of them, Buffalo and the 49ers, under 10 points per game to the quarterback. So these are easy matchups you want to avoid. Even Cincinnati, I mean, they're going up against Lamar Jackson this week. Maybe they allow some rushing numbers here. They have allowed a lot of passing yards, but not a lot of passing touchdowns. So use this chart to kind of play matchups if you need to. Let's move on to the running backs here. I do filter these by PPR, but as you can kind of see, I mean, I use half PPR and standard here, but for the most part, it doesn't matter what format you're playing in. Green teams are going to still be green. Red teams are still going to be red. So the team that's allowing the most points to the running back right now is the Houston Texans. They're going to get James Robinson and Travis Etienne. I think both guys are probably pretty startable this week. You have the Seattle Seahawks going up against the Saints. Hopefully Alvin Kamara can play. It's going to be a smash spot for Kamara if he's able to go. The Detroit Lions, we mentioned their defense being one of the worst among all positions. Here they are, the ranking 30th against the running back. I think you're going to want to start Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris this week. They've allowed 8 rushing touchdowns on the year, so really good spot for your Patriots running backs. The Chargers, they've been allowing a lot of rushing points here, a lot of rushing yards, some big plays in both the receiving and in the running game here. Going up against Cleveland, that's Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. The Chiefs going up against Josh Jacobs. It's a good start for him. Minnesota, we think of them as kind of a decent team here, but Khalil Herbert's going to be on our radar this week if Montgomery can't go. Here's Jacksonville, so you're going to like Dameon Pierce this week. Buffalo, Steelers allow a lot of points here. Maybe Devin Singletary pops off. Maybe Joe Mixon pops off against the Ravens. Probably a good week for Austin Eckler again. And then you got the Chiefs backs here. So target these teams here with all these good matchups. And then the tough matchups for the week. The Rams allowing the fewest points to the running back here. So maybe temper Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. Tough matchup for Christian McCaffrey. Everyone's going to be all over these Atlanta Falcon running backs here because of the waiver wire with Cordero Patterson out. But it's a tough matchup against the Bucs. I don't advise using any of those guys. It's going to be a tough spot for Jamal Williams this week against the Patriots. Rashad Penny, tough spot against the Saints. Maybe Derrick Henry gets limited against the Commanders, and maybe the Jets running backs kind of limited against the Dolphins. So use these charts. Again, red, you want to avoid. Green, you want to target. Looking at the wide receiver position, now Baltimore is still kind of skewed because they allowed that massive game to Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Waddle, and Tyreek Hill, but they're allowing the most points to wide receivers right now. Almost 1,000 yards total and 6 touchdowns here. So T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, maybe even Tyler Boyd are in play this week. The Dallas receivers, you want to start them against the Rams. It's surprising how bad the Rams secondary is, but CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Noah Brown, all good spots this week. The Tennessee Titans, they did lose Treylon Burks for a few games there with that foot injury. So maybe it's a big Robert Woods game. I like all the Washington players here. Jahan Dotson's going to be out with his injury. I think it's a hamstring. So Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin looking really good this weekend. Tampa Bay's in a smash spot for all their receivers. Hopefully everyone can stay healthy. It looks good to go for the Bucs receivers, though. And then the Jets receivers. We like what we got there. Zach Wilson, again, looked pretty good last week. Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, all in play, as well as the Raiders receivers. And kind of, you can see the green kind of stops here. So you want to target playing all of these players on these teams here. Amari Cooper, all the Buffalo receivers. I don't know if I can advise starting a Patriot receiver here because we don't know the quarterback situation, but we can identify some red teams here. So the Chicago Bears allowing the fewest points to the wide receiver, which is pretty strange, but you're still going to start Jefferson, probably Adam Thielen. The Colts receivers going up against the Broncos. I don't know if I like it, but you're going to continue to start Michael Pittman Jr. The Packers going up against the Giants. The Giants have allowed not a lot of points to the wide receiver position. I still think Lazard and Romeo Doubs are worth a spot start. This Colts and Denver matchup might be kind of low scoring for the wide receivers, but I'm still going to start Sutton and probably Jerry Jeudy. Pittsburgh going up against Buffalo. Again, that's a tough ask. I think we're going to want to avoid that. I do think you want to pick up George Pickens, though, if he's available. The Panthers, we don't trust their receivers right now, especially against 49ers. Philadelphia going up against Marquise Brown and the like, maybe a tough spot for those guys. So use these charts. We'll move on to our final position here, the tight ends. The Cardinals allowing the most points to the tight end position. So Dallas Goedert, it's a big Dallas Goedert week. I would expect him to score a touchdown in this one. The Saints don't really have a tight end, but Seahawks allowing a lot of fantasy points here. Maybe we see Tyler Conklin continue to do what he's been doing, going up a nice matchup here with the Miami Dolphins. And then you have Denver going up against the Colts. Can't really trust any Denver Broncos receivers. Maybe it's Kyle Pitts week. It's a tough spot, but no Cordero Patterson. They got to use Pitts. They got to use Drake London. I like Pitts this weekend. TJ Hawkinson, a nice game against the Patriots. Maybe one of the Bucs tight ends. I'm not sure. The Patriots have a nice matchup against the Lions. Maybe it's Logan Thomas. Again, I mentioned Jahan Dotson's going to be out for a little bit. Maybe we see more Logan Thomas in the passing game. And then tight ends with the toughest matchup this week. I mean, Noah Fant and Will Dissly for the Seahawks, not a great spot. Dalton Schultz is in a tight spot. Pat Freiermuth in a tight spot. The Giants don't really have a tight end that we care for. Daniel Bellinger, the rookie there, is the guy. Carolina doesn't really have a tight end. Maybe Gerald Everett gets a little limited against the Browns. Robert Tonyan going up against the Giants. Tyler Higbee against the Cowboys. All tough matchups this week. You see a lot of teams allowing less than 10 PPR points to the tight end. So I just wanted to hop on here, show you guys the quick stats. Use the link in the description or just go to thefantasyfellowship.com and check it out for yourself. Thank you guys for your time. I'm going to be continuing to do this video every week going forward. Otherwise, I do update this on Tuesday. So if you guys ever want to check out the charts on Tuesday, they will be there before the video. So thank you guys for your time. Have a good rest of your evening. Peace.